Hey, KU fans, welcome back to Allen Fieldhouse one last time in 2020-21. Crazy to say that. With Benton Smith, I'm Matt Tate, and I am still a little bit dumbfounded by what we watched tonight. I mean, I'm not saying I thought they were going to win by 25. They were favored by 17. I'm not saying I thought it was going to be an absolute butt-kicking. But I didn't think at all that it was almost going to be a butt-kicking the other way with UTEP
Right.
putting it on Kansas like they did. But KU found a freaking way to survive. They win at 67-62 after winning the second half 47-28. At no point did it feel like they won that second half by 20 points. I mean, just an amazingly weird game all the way around. Benton, just your first takes, your overall thoughts on what you watched tonight and how bad your brain hurts.
My brain has been hurting today.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're talking about kind of how this game was played out so unexpectedly, I remembered that I think the last time we had an episode of KU Sports Extra, I proclaimed it was going to be a big night for Tristan Enaruna. I don't think he played tonight, right?
Correct.
It was too tight of a game. I couldn't afford to put him in. No, it was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah, I didn't think even if they did have kind of some complacency coming into this game, which they obviously did because they had no energy in the first half.
Right.
I thought still, at no point did it register that they'd be down 15 to UTEP. Just because, they obviously had been playing so well and, just had that massive win over Baylor and looked so good in everything that they did in that. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of like we should have seen it coming, but just it was so the opposite direction that I felt like, how could that have even been possible? So it definitely caught me completely off guard.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a total classic case of one team playing with nothing to lose and the other playing tight, because I didn't think KU looked tight. I mean, I agree with you. Their energy was bad. And like you said, we could have expected that a little bit because there's no way it was going to be what it was against Baylor. How do you get up for this game the same that you do that? It's human nature says that's not possible. But the game took on that vibe. I mean, it even though KU didn't look tight, it sort of played out that way. UTEP was getting extra rebounds, catching the lucky bounces, throwing in three-pointers on second chance opportunities. I mean, they really did look like a team that not only looked loose, but also they gained some serious confidence throughout that first half. And I think by the time they got to the second half, KU hits a three-pointer to open the half. Next thing you know, they're still down by more. I mean, it was just a weird thing. And then KU flipped the switch. I mean, that's really the only way to put it. You could tell this game meant something to them. You could tell they knew really throughout the game, but especially in the last 7-8 minutes, the only way we're going to win this game is if we lock down defensively. And then they freaking did, man. DeJuan Harris and Marcus Garrett spearheaded the whole thing. Guys got on the boards after forcing misses. Their defense has been so good the last month. And I know UTEP's not the best team they've played or will play, but they're pretty decent. And KU, after giving them whatever they wanted, completely took everything away down the stretch. That, to me, is almost like a blessing in disguise, sort of now they know they can do this? Does that elevate their confidence even more? Because they've played good defense in close games and won those. But tonight, they had to play defense to stay in the game, and they did it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see your point there. I don't know. It's like, to me, just I almost wouldn't if I was on the coaching staff, I'd almost like go the opposite direction. Like, let's not get false confidence from this. Like, great job, obviously, and defense is what they have to hang their hats on and all that. But I mean, just because you did this to UTEP doesn't mean you should or can do it again.
Yeah.
Especially with the type of teams you're going to be facing in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although I do think that maybe round 1, round 2 of the NCAA tournament,
well, that's
these are the
what I mean.
types of
like,
teams.
The teams will be better though than UTEP.
Good point. Good point.
Is what I'm saying. So.
Okay. Yeah, I thought you meant next week because obviously that's true.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The Big 12 tournament's going to be an absolute war. But But yeah, and Self said it after the game, though, that this had an NCAA tournament feel, right? Like, how many times have we seen KU as a high seed in a game like this where it's just not their night and they got to figure out a way to grind and scratch and claw and do whatever they can. And that's what they did tonight. So I get your point. I get mine. I mean, like, there's definitely some positives to take out of this, but I do think you're right. I don't imagine anybody in that locker room is going to want to even talk about UTEP ever again. I mean, like, they just put this out of their memory. They almost suffered a would it have ended their season? Would it have ruined everything? No, they would have had a chance to bounce back from this. But had they lost this game, you would have had to question everything about their confidence. You'd have had to question everything about any opponent they play the rest of the way. And instead, they found a way to get it done, and now they can continue to preach those things about momentum and being on a roll and all of that, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Did they win? They did. Okay, moving on. 7 of 8, one of the hotter teams in the country right now, and it's weird because I don't know about you, but I know that throughout this game, I kept thinking about Roy Williams and that epic quote he gave after the Marquette loss. Where he said, what was it he said just a couple weeks ago or last week, where he said, obviously I wouldn't have scheduled him if I knew we were going to lose, and something along those lines, and he deadpanned a little bit, and it was pretty good. And I mean, I just kept thinking that all night. Like, Self talked a lot about how good this game could be for this team, and then here they are down 15 with 12 and a half minutes to go or whatever it was, still down 9 with 8 minutes to go. And it just never really looked like it was their night. And then they forced it and locked up defensively. What'd you make of DeJuan Harris? And I know Self said he was the best player for Kansas tonight. I don't 100% agree with that, but he was really damn good.
Yeah, he was. And that's another great sign. That's a positive coming out of this game, is just, obviously his confidence is going to be higher than it's ever been. He was a key part of an important rally in a game that they very easily could have lost. He himself trusted him enough to play 17 minutes in the second half, something like that. I mean, he was vital on both ends. He made maybe the play of the night, finding or kind of leading Ochai Agbaji to that opposite corner 3 with that, high degree of difficulty pass from the opposite side. And he kind of talked about it afterward, right? About he was maybe looking for Christian Brown initially, but could see that play was there for Ochai and kind of, maybe led him a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What a play. I mean, that's your true point guard out there.
Sure.
With the ball in his
sure. And what a big time shot, because KU had cut it to 1, and then UTEP came down and hit a 3 of their own to go up 4. And then DeJuan's kind of trapped and has nowhere to go. And you turn it over there and let them go up 6 or 7 at that point. It could have been a totally different finish, but instead Ochai gets to the right spot. DeJuan finds him with that pass, and then he buries the shot too. I mean, Ochai was really good. DeJuan was really good. David McCormick, for an important stretch, was really good. For several other stretches, he was not really good, especially in the entire first half. But those 3 guys, and then I thought Marcus Garrett. That's my choice, man. And I love Marcus Garrett. I think people who have followed us and followed me know that. But I think you could almost put him as the best player in a Kansas uniform every night. I mean, he's just – the bar is so ridiculously high for him. And I wondered, when Self said that about DeJuan, I wondered if that was why he didn't think Garrett was the best player tonight, because he expects Garrett to do what he did tonight. But all he did was guard the other team's best player and completely take him out of the game when he was killing everybody else in a Kansas uniform at the most important time. Oh, and then he hit 2 driving layups in the last couple of minutes, including one that gave KU their first lead, and then the other that gave KU essentially enough to win. And then he hit a couple of free throws. I mean, the guy was remarkable. And it doesn't always look the prettiest. His game's not always, poetry in motion or anything like that. But as far as finding a guy to get the damn job done, that's your guy right there. So those 4 were phenomenal. Everybody else, Jalen Wilson, an off night, only played 17 minutes, 1 of 7 from the floor. Mitch Lightfoot played big minutes. His numbers didn't show that, but when McCormick wasn't in the game and was still trying to process how he could be effective, I thought Lightfoot was out there and he competed and he did enough to keep KU close. So, I guess let's wrap it up here with the idea of momentum. I mean, do you feel like this was enough for them to move forward feeling like their momentum is intact? We kind of talked about that after the Texas game, right? Like, just because they lost that game doesn't mean that their momentum should have been stopped, and it turns out it wasn't. Just because this was a game that they didn't play great and could have lost and were 17-point favorites and struggled, I still don't think you look at this as anything other than another step toward where they want to go and momentum in the right direction. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was definitely the sense I got from their post-game interviews.
Sure.
David McCormick came out, feeling pretty good about how they finished, and so did Bill Self. And I mean, if you're gonna try to get a true sense of where their minds are at, I mean, I thought that they were both feeling pretty positive about how the night went, just because the second half went so well. You mentioned how lopsided it ended up being in the second half because they had such a strong finish those last 10 or 11 minutes or so. I mean, the defense was back to where KU wants it to be, and they were finishing and they were playing and having the type of night that I think a lot of people figure they would have all night tonight.
Yeah, it just shows defense wins, man. And I'm not saying that to be cliche, but like this team more than any team in a long time, they gave up 62 points. I mean, if you can continue to do that, they gave up 58 to Baylor. Texas had to get to overtime to get 70. Prior to that, it was some 60s and 50s. I mean, this team's doing what it needs to do, and I think that shows you that this is a team that if they can continue to do that moving forward, they're going to have a chance to win because all they got to do is get to 65. And, I don't know that number will hold true always, obviously, but that's kind of the vibe around this team right now, and I think that gives them confidence. There's margin for error then, and how many times this season did we hear Self talk about no margin for error or very small margin for error? And he hasn't said that in weeks, and I think that's because their defense has given them some now. So, big picture, they played a good 10 minutes to close the game and did what they had to do. And next week, no one will be talking about this game. When their seed comes out, this game won't hurt them. I mean, none of that was lost tonight, and it was this close to being that way. Pretty remarkable. It was tied with a minute left or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, didn't Garrett's next layup? He had two layups late, and the second one made it a 2-point game. So it was tied again. Yeah,
with like 22 seconds left, and then UTEP races down the other end trying to catch KU in transition and fumbles it out of bounds.
Yeah,
DeJuan Harris goes to the free throw line, knocks down 2 free throws like he's been doing it all year. I mean, I thought that was maybe one of the best parts of the post game was, somebody asked him about that, and he said, I'll make some free throws. I mean, like, this is a kid that's been talked about his offensive shortcomings all season, right? Won't shoot when he's wide open and doesn't look to score, but he was happy to tell you that he'll hit some free throws. He did hit 2 really big ones tonight. And so now we wait for the rest of the Big 12 to finish their schedules, and KU's got a shot at the 2 seed in the tournament. Basically, I think it comes down to what West Virginia does against Oklahoma State this weekend. If West Virginia wins, I think they're the 2, KU's the 3. If West Virginia loses, KU's the 2, I believe. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's right. So is there a big difference between 2 and 3? Probably not, because either way, you're not 4 or 5 having to play Baylor in the semis, right? So they're going to have a dogfight. They're going to have to play really well to win 2 or 3 games over there next week. And it's just crazy that we're here. It's crazy that this season happened. It's crazy that this is the last time in Allen Fieldhouse this season. It's crazy that this may be the last time in Allen Fieldhouse wearing a mask. I mean, who knows, man? We don't know anything right now, but we do know that KU is 19-8 and headed toward the postseason with exactly the kind of momentum they were hoping to have. Maybe not expecting to get it this same way, but still, winners of 7 of 8, beating some good teams, winning in tough ways. That's what they did tonight. And, that's all you can ask for. Any final thoughts?
No, I just you brought up the Big 12 tournament, and I feel like there's always anticipation for that, but this year I feel like more than ever it's just like, wow, every game should be so good and so hard to win. Because I mean, what we're looking at, like 7 teams potentially going to the NCAA tournament out of the Big 12.
Yeah,
right?
the latest
such a large number.
Right, the latest bracketology or bubble watch, I guess it is, on ESPN.com. It was like, they do like locks and then should be in and then has some work to do for each conference. And I think for the Big 12, it was 7 locks, nothing else.
Right.
It's basically what it is, man.
Yeah.
All respect to Iowa State, K-State, and TCU.
Yeah.
They got no shot. The rest of the teams are easily in because they're all ranked. And, yeah, that's where we're at. Good luck. I saw tonight after some of tonight's results, I don't know where it's at finally, but Texas Tech was the 6 as of now. That could change over the weekend. But you're looking at if KU's the 3 and they play Texas Tech in round 1. Wow, right. And if not, it may be Oklahoma State and Cade Cunningham. And then if you're lucky enough to get by that one, you got to play West Virginia. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So it should be some high-level basketball, and that's great because that's what we all deserve after missing out last year. KU wins at 67-62 over upset-minded UTEP, an unbelievable finish to an unbelievable season for so many different reasons. For Benton Smith, I'm Matt Tate. We'll see you guys next week in Kansas City at the Big 12 tournament. Thanks for watching KU Sports Extra.